the women of then, how they were seen, and the women of now, and all of that. So first things first, let us go back to the second pledge of Aqaba. 73 men, 2 women. What was the population then? There were loads of women. What happened to them? So it's safe and it's easy to conclude and assume that perhaps they were subdued. Perhaps the women weren't given the grace to be. The women weren't allowed. They were voiceless. It's safe to assume that based on the number we saw, 73 versus 2. However, just because of that one person, Nusaybah, that was there, it's sufficient also to let us know that perhaps they were not necessarily subdued. Perhaps it was just the familiarity in them, thinking, oh, the top job is for the men and not for the women. I feel like today there's a bit of misplaced priority. I think a lot of copying and pasting is happening, and we are not copying intelligently. I believe that we have allowed ourselves to depart from the path of the deen because of pressure. We have succumbed to certain pressures. And I'll be frank, subhanAllah, I'm a Muslimah. I have dreams, aspirations. I have career that I want to pursue. I'll give you an instance. I'm an accountant, and I got to the apex of accounting. That is fellowship. I'm a fellow of the ACCA, and subhanAllah, I am that because I have empowering men in my lives. My brothers, my father, they blew wind beneath my wings, and they allowed me to fly. They didn't blow wind at me to make me fall. What do you hear me say? What I'm saying to you is that the women cannot do it alone. Nusaybah was able to be who she is because of the men in her life. If she had an oppressive man, that it was I say no, you cannot go out. If you go out, the curse of the angels will be upon you, and I will curse you. If she had those kind of men in her life, she wouldn't have taken that pledge of Aqaba. She would not be in that front line. She wouldn't be there. If she was with a husband that says, oh, no, you cannot go out. If you are there attending to the wounds of the injured soldiers, who will take care of me at home? Who will handle the kitchen? Who will ensure my laundry is done? If that was the kind of men in her life, she wouldn't be the person who are reading her stories today, right? So what that is a nasiha for the men more than the women. Yes, for the women, take strength, draw strength from Nusaybah's story. Know that you are an entire being, you are an entity, and Allah has sealed that for you. May Allah bless Nusaybah bint Ka'b. When she asked the Prophet on that question, subhanAllah, is a question I could have asked. If I was living in the time of Nabi, I would have asked, because I would have been concerned about all of my lesson. They are not just, them not just do it for the waste. Let's not go to waste, because if verses and verses are telling us the believing men and the believing men and the believing men, so you're wondering, do the women even exist? Are we, has that placed us here for a purpose? What is our purpose in life? Does Allah even reckon with us? Those kind of thoughts will cross the mind. And so that you can't imagine 1,000,001 questions that have run through Nusaybah's mind before she had the courage to even face Nabi Sallallahu and ask, what is the faith of this? What is my faith? Am I just doing it? Does Allah even recognize this? Am I blessed for this? Is there anything for me in this, my resilience and my bravery? Is there anything for me? And subhanAllah, Allah responded, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I think that response is everything any woman that has an interest in being anything in this life, especially if you want to serve Allah with the entirety of your being. I think that is sufficient for you. SubhanAllah, that verse, chapter 33, verse 35 of Noble Quran, Al-Ahzab, is a reinforcer, it's a comforter. That verse is very comforting for an average woman who thinks her strength, her striving is in vain. It comes to reassure you that no, all your efforts is not in vain. When as Allah describes this in this verse, let me just quickly go to the loose translation. Indeed, the Muslim men and the Muslim women, the believing men and the believing women, the obedient men and the obedient women, the truthful men and truthful women, the patient men and the patient women, the humble men and the humble women, the charitable men and charitable women, the fasting men and the fasting women, the men who guard their private parts and the women who do so, and the men who remember Allah often and the women who do so. For them, Allah has prepared forgiveness and a great reward. How do you read this verse and not be comforted? SubhanAllah. So, irrespective of any other verse that you've come across or any other tafsirs that you've listened to or any other halaqah you've attended and they've said certain things, just knowing that this verse exists in the Quran, I think it solidifies everything for you. It sums it all up. Allah has referred to the fasting one, so your fast is not in vain. He referred to the humble one, your patience is not in vain. He refers to everything you would have ever thought of. Allah has responded to it in that verse. I think when that verse came and it solidified it for Nusaybah, it gave her that extra push, that extra zeal. You know how many more words she taught? Do you know how many more treaties she signed? SubhanAllah. I think that is enough for we women to get up and be more and do more. Let nothing hold you back. Allah will reward your every single striving. It's not going to go in vain. Allah is a just God, is an equitable God, and His mercy, surrounds us. So let's go all out to achieve whatever dreams that we have within the confines of Islam, of course. Today's Muslim woman who needs to balance faith, family, personal ambition. I think all you need to do is to pick up the book of history and read about Nusaybah Bint because she encompasses it all. How she was a mother who raised resilient sons, warriors, co-warriors, who understood the essence of Islam. That is her in her faith mode. That is her in her mother mode. In her personal ambition, we know her to be a warrior. We know her to be a soldier. And she didn't let that down. If she wasn't improving herself in her skills, she won't be the one constantly fighting and, conquering our wars. So she had her personal ambition to be a frontline soldier. She was a nurse. She was good at what she did and she didn't stop. Yet she encompassed, transcended that and continued to be an outstanding mother. She raised nations of women, strong women, because we read about her being a da'iyah, constantly training women, building. So she had the ambition to clone herself into multiple places, and she was doing that well. And her Islam didn't falter. Is why we're referring to her today. Is why we're able to read her story. She became a Muslim and she entered Islam completely with her entirety of her being, and she fought till her very last breath. In fact, read a story about her involvement with Musaylama, the false prophet, the liar, subhanAllah. She lost her son to Musaylama, and she vowed she was going to be the end of him, and her son as well, to avenge his brother's death at the hands of Musaylama. And she didn't stop until they saw the end of Musaylama. That was a woman who taught us resilience, bravery, courage, taught us steadfastness, subhanAllah. And so any Muslim woman existing today on earth who wants to balance faith, ambition, family, and all of that, and want to score 100%, tick off all the boxes in all of these paths that you've chosen for yourself, read the story of Nusaybah Bint Umm Imarah, and you'll be able to surpass those standards, bi'idhnillah. Faith is not something you pay lip service to. Faith requires action. You can't proclaim Islam with your lips, your heart follows it, your limbs follow it. And that's what we see in Nusaybah, right? Again, it looks like the Battle of Uhud is the only. She fought in Battle of Hunain. She fought in Battle of Yamama. There were so many battles she fought, but Uhud was so significant because of the role she played. Actually, when she took the shield and the sword to defend and protect Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and constantly fought beside him, she was ensuring that he was well protected all through. So you see that faith backed up by action is what we saw in clear terms. And I think for us Muslims that were born Muslims, we take it for granted. You see the ones that revert to Islam, the ones that take up Islam as a choice. Subhanallah. Do you see the energy in them? Do you see the strength? Do you see their steadfastness? Because they gained something. They see that they were lost and now they are found. So they appreciate the entering into Islam and they go all out to defend it. And that's why you find the most active Muslims, if you find out their story, you would almost always find that they are reverts. Why is that the case? It's our birthright. So we take it for granted. I'm a Muslim, my parents are Muslims, and so my entirety of my family, my whole lineage, we're all Muslims. And so we're very laid back. We do the minimal and we think that's it. When you are reminded that the same Jannah that Nabi Sallallahu is, the same Jannah that the likes of Abu Bakr and the Umar, the Ali ibn Abi Talib, and all of them, and Khalid bin Walid, and the same Jannah, the Aisha, Asiya, may Allah be pleased with all of them. That same Jannah that they are is the same Jannah you're striving for with this attitude, with this, praying Salah at the time you want to pray your Salah, with this attitude of doing the minimalist, along Ororo, God is not, tough God. He doesn't demand so much of me. So you're just happy to do the little and expect so much. SubhanAllah, I hope that you can have a rethink and know that faith needs to be backed by actions. You cannot be laid back and approach Islam with that attitude and expect the best and expect the highest heaven. You cannot pay lip service to, oh Allah, grant me to Firdaus, and you do nothing about it. You do no work towards it. You're not the one that is feeding your neighbors. You're not the one that is looking after your neighbors and visiting your neighbors that are sick. You're not the one paying visits to your brothers that are incarcerated and remind them about Allah and strengthening them and giving them the zeal to continue. You're not the one that is found to help the one who is in need, who is hungry. You're not the one because you're thinking of, the money in my account is for my vacation. But this was not the attitude of our predecessors. That was not their attitude. When I read about their stories and I read about how they shared dates, when I didn't know what a date was, in my head, I thought date was a watermelon. I thought that was the size of a date. Because how do you understand that three people are sharing one date? The way they described it. So I only thought it had to be something that big for three people to share. And when I eventually realized what a date was, the size of a date, just with my finger, right? SubhanAllah, I think it gave me more humility, more understanding of the mindset of our predecessors, the past predecessors, and how they understood faith, what faith was to them. When you read about how they understood the Quran, how they interacted with the Quran, these people were people that would learn a verse. They wouldn't want to learn another verse until they implemented what they had learned. They learned and they did. They backed up their faith with action. They worked the talk, right? They worked the talk. They didn't just talk. And that is something we learn from the life of Nusaybah Bint. And also when you remind yourself that death is inevitable, I comfort myself saying, Anipulako. We all carry death in our pockets. That's the literal meaning, Anipulako. We all carry it with us. We're walking. Nobody knows who's going to drop next. I'm here now. If Allah wills, I want to finish this interview. We pray that we finish and we do many more. What will be the last statement you make? What will be the last action? What will be your last salah? So every action that you do, everything you do for the sake of Allah, give it your utmost best. Make it seem like this could be the very last. If we all approach every transaction that we did like that, SubhanAllah, the world will definitely be a better place for us all.